In 1898, Daniel Plainview was a solitary silver miner, toiling in a desolate and barren pit. One day, in the midst of his work, a terrible accident struck. But in that moment of misfortune, Daniel stumbled upon a trace of oil. From then on, he gradually abandoned silver mining and threw himself into an industry far more dangerous and intoxicating, oil drilling. By 1911, he had become a self-made oilman. With his own crew at his side, Daniel was joined by a boy he had adopted, H.W. Plainview. Daniel used H.W. to project the image of a family man, a face that earned the trust of landowners, making it easier to acquire their property in exchange for promises of prosperity and growth. One day, a young man named Paul Sunday arrived with a secret. Beneath his family's land in Little Boston, California, lay an ocean of oil. Paul sold this information to Daniel for cash.
If I travel all the way up there and I find that you've been lying to me, I'm going to find you and I'm going to take more than my money back. Is that all right with you?
Yes, sir.
Daniel and H.W. traveled to the Sunday Ranch, pretending to be interested in quail hunting. There, they met Paul's family, and while exploring, H.W. discovered signs of oil.
That's earthquake oil. Set loose.
After dinner, Daniel swiftly offered to buy the land from Paul's father, Abel Sunday. But Paul's twin brother, Eli, an ambitious young preacher of the Church of the Third Revelation, stepped in. Eli demanded that Daniel give the church $5,000, about $170,000 in today's money, if oil was indeed found. In front of townsfolk, Daniel promised to build a school for the children, dig a well for water, plant crops for bread, and open new roads and jobs for the community. He erected a derrick, and Eli wanted to bless it, something Daniel reluctantly agreed to, but later denied when the drilling began. The work commenced, but that night, tragedy struck. A heavy beam fell on one of Daniel's workers, killing him instantly. Daniel halted operations until midday the next day. During the break, he visited Eli's church, watching him heal an old woman with arthritis. After the sermon, Daniel asked Eli to say a few words at the burial of their worker, Joe Gunda. Eli, however, blamed Daniel for the accident, claiming it could have been avoided if the well had been blessed. Daniel, unmoved, dismissed such words. Then came disaster. A gas explosion erupted from the well. Daniel rushed to save H.W. But the boy lost his hearing from the blast.
Hear my voice.
As the derrick burned and the well lay in ruin, Daniel smiled not for the destruction, but because he now knew the land held a massive fortune in oil, and it would be his alone. The operation pressed on. Eli approached Daniel for the promised money, but Daniel slapped him, mocked him, and dragged him through the mud, challenging him to heal H.W. if he truly was a prophet. Humiliated, Eli turned his fury toward his own father, blaming him for allowing Daniel to trample over their family.
It was your stupid son! It was Paul who told him to come here. I know it.
Not long after, a man appeared claiming to be Daniel's half-brother, Henry.
Ernest died, I heard. I wanted to find you.
Daniel welcomed him warmly, longing for a connection by blood. But one night, H.W. discovered a suspicious diary among Henry's belongings and, in a fit of defiance, burned his things while the two men slept. Angered by this act, Daniel sent H.W. away to a school for the deaf, far from him. As competition for oil transport grew fierce, Standard Oil offered to buy all of Daniel's wells, making him a millionaire without effort. But Daniel refused, even threatening to kill Tilford, their representative. He knew he needed to build a pipeline to avoid costly rail transport, but there was one obstacle, a tract of land owned by a man named Mr. Bandy. One evening, while traveling with Henry, Daniel noticed that Henry was unfamiliar with places he claimed were near their old home. Confronting him at gunpoint, Henry broke down and confessed. He was not Daniel's brother at all, but a drifter who had met the real Henry before he died of tuberculosis. He had learned about Daniel and his family from the real Henry's diary. Enraged and betrayed, Daniel murdered him and buried his body. When he later opened the real Henry's diary and found a photograph inside, Daniel broke down in tears. The next morning, Daniel was awakened by Mr. Bandy, a Union Oil representative. Before selling his land, Bandy demanded that Daniel repent publicly and be baptized in Eli's church. In front of the congregation, Eli humiliated him, forcing Daniel to shout, "I've abandoned my child," a calculated act of revenge.
Out of here, devil! Out, devil! Out, sin!
Daniel continued to grow his empire, building a pipeline to the coast and bringing HW back, now accompanied by his deaf teacher. The story leaps to the late 1920s. HW has married Mary, the youngest daughter of Abel Sunday. Daniel, now immensely wealthy, lives in a grand mansion, but he is a hollow, alcoholic shell of a man. HW visits to say he and Mary are moving to Mexico to start their own drilling company. Daniel, threatened by the thought of competition, mocks him and cruelly reveals that he is not his real father. He adopted him solely to secure business deals. Deeply hurt, but holding his dignity, HW says goodbye forever. And though Daniel's words are merciless, we know that somewhere deep inside, he truly loved HW, despite the ruthlessness that defined him. Sometime later, Eli appears, desperate and destitute. He offers to sell Mr. Bandy's land, claiming authority over it since Bandy has passed away. Daniel humiliates him, forcing him to shout that he is a false prophet and that God is a superstition. Then Daniel reveals the crushing truth: the land is worthless. He had already drained its oil years ago through neighboring wells. Daniel twists the knife further, telling Eli that the true prophet was his twin brother Paul, who had sold the land to Daniel for $10,000, about $340,000 today, and now owned 3 producing wells, earning $5,000 a week, while Eli had been left with nothing. In a final burst of madness and rage, Daniel chased Eli across the bowling alley of his mansion and bludgeoned him to death with a bowling pin. Moments later, the butler stepped in, finding Daniel blood-soaked and calm. Daniel looked up and muttered, "I'm finished."